So what I have for you today is the Marrow Mines and the Vault of Pallon the Pious, both of which are short one-shot adventures that are found in Kobold Press's Prepared. It's a little collection of short adventures, and the reason that I am running these two adventures at the same time, well, not at the same time, but one after another, is because they were right next to each other in the book. They are also very similar in terms of their character levels. The Marrow Mines is intended for 4 first to third level PCs, and the Vault is intended for 4 second level PCs. So I just started the PCs at level 2, and for the Vault, I will bring them up to level 3. That's the first reason. And the second reason is that once I discuss the adventures and the story of the adventures that I came up with, you'll see that in my mind, they were very much interrelated. Like the second adventure to me was just a natural continuation of the first adventure. So the first adventure, the Marrow Mines, it talks about how the party, this is the second one, it talks about how the party finds this cave and they explore the cave, and the whole point of the adventure is that when they explore the cave, they find out, as you can see over here in this depiction, let me disable this, they find out that the cave itself is the inside of a bone of a giant monster, and this monster happens to be the sea creature, a Leviathan. And when I read this whole adventure, I mean, there's not much story about it otherwise, besides, well, the party explores this cave and there are a bunch of kobolds inside the cave that are addicted to this Leviathan's bone marrow, thus the name the Marrow Mines. The introduction of it says that the Marrow Mines are dug in and around fossilized wing of an unnamed Leviathan. A small pack of kobolds lives and works in the mines, which are heavily trapped. The kobolds defend the area, and the kobolds are led by the head kobold, one named Rikir, which is a spellcaster. So the suggestion for the adventure to bring the party into these mines is that they start having some sort of nightmare, some sort of vision of a storm. And I stayed with that suggestion. I really love that idea, where the party is drawn to come to these mines. It is, they don't need any sort of adventure hook besides, their very character themselves, who they are. So in my mind, I thought, you know what, these characters, they have been having these nightmares since childhood. And these nightmares will eventually draw them to this fossilized Leviathan. The second adventure is called The Vault of Pallon the Pious. And this adventure is a very, very small dungeon. It's a dungeon with, let's see, dungeon with pretty much 3 rooms. And the story behind the dungeon is that Pallon the Pious, this is all actually stuff I wrote, but the original story is that Pallon the Pious was before he was called Pallon the Pious, he was called Pallon the Merciless. He was this ruthless pirate captain that sailed the 7 seas, and at some point he just kind of stopped being a pirate. He came to an epiphany and had a change of heart and decided that he wanted to worship a good god. And he spent the second half of his life in deference to a benevolent god. So that also got me thinking. I mean, first of all, we have a pirate, and then on top of that, in the first adventure, we have this seafaring Leviathan that somehow is buried underground. To me, that just already works. So I knew right then and there, reading these 2 adventures side by side, that what I should do is weave them together into one big adventure with 2 parts and run them over 2 sessions, hopefully with the same PCs. So this is the story that I came up with to tie this adventure together. Now, Pallon the Pious, I mean, he's more the central villain, the central figure of this story. He was a half elf, and I fit this adventure, of course, into the history of Faerun. He was a half elf born during the Spell Plague. He became a pirate. He was a successful buccaneer. He went around robbing merchant ships. He made himself very rich. He was going after this one mark, this one ship, which was a rich merchant ship. I'm calling it the Pearl or something like that, but that sounds a little bit too much like the Black Pearl from Pirates of the Caribbean. So he was chasing this one ship, and he had betrayed the captain of that ship, or had misleading information leaked to the captain of that ship, wherein the captain of the ship would guide the ship through the sea of stars in a way that would lead it into a Leviathan's lair. The Leviathan, sensing that there's an intrusion on his lair, came up and began to attack the ship. There was a massive storm, and the Leviathan came up, bit the ship in half. The Leviathan is a massive monster. Bit the ship in half. The ship began to sink. It was an image like the Titanic. The ship, the bow and the stern of the ship both sinking at the same time, with all the people drowning. And when Pallon came up to the scene, because he's what his plan was is that he's going to let the Leviathan destroy the ship, and then his pirate ship would kind of anchor a little bit off, away from the Leviathan to not be in danger, and then he would go and go down and steal the riches of the ship. That's what his original plan is. But when Pallon arrives and he sees the ship sink, he has this vision, or not a vision, rather, he sees this woman on the ship. This woman that he doesn't even know. She's one of the passengers on the ship. Her name is Alina, and she has these distinctive features because they're going to come back over and over again. She has these piercing blue eyes. She's blonde. She's got these purple fingernails and red lipstick. He has a vision of her. In that very instant, he has this epiphany. He thinks to himself, this woman, I'm just in love with her. This is the first time I'm seeing her, and this is love at first sight, but I've also doomed her to death. So Pallon tries to jump out of his ship and swims over trying to save her, but when he gets to her, he's too late. She has already drowned, and he's not even able to recover her body. All he's able to recover is a blue ribbon from her hair, and she sinks to the waters below and drowns. So after this happens, Pallon has this epiphany, and he has a change of heart, and he no longer wants to be this horrible, dreaded pirate anymore. He wants to do good in the world. He takes on a faith. And I chose Ilmater. He's the sort of the god of suffering. He becomes a devout of Ilmater, but at the same time, he has this dark obsession with this woman that he lost during this storm where the Leviathan came up and destroyed the ship. So he spends the rest of his life obsessing about this woman. He spends most of the rest of his life still sailing the seas, not as a pirate, but just pursuing this Leviathan, like Ahab and the White Whale, trying to chase down the Leviathan and destroy it. However, before he can actually find this Leviathan, the second sundering happens, and the Sea of Stars is receded. Like all these earth motes fall down and reconstruct the land, and it's the land around Eastern that gets reconstructed. It all becomes land, and the Sea of Stars shrinks back to its original size. So that kills the Leviathan, and Pallon is never able to get his vengeance or even find that woman that he lost all those many years ago. Instead, he still continues to pursue the Leviathan. He wants to find the remains of the Leviathan. So he now is searching on land, and he finds the remains of the Leviathan buried deep below ground, covered by earth at this point. All he can find are the bones of the Leviathan. And he goes in, he digs the hole through the bones of the Leviathan to get inside it, and he finds Leviathan's bone marrow, and he eats it. And once he starts eating it, the magic, the chaotic magic, this warped spell plague magic of this monster starts affecting him. and he begins having visions. He begins having visions and dreams of this woman. So the more he eats this Leviathan's bone marrow, the more he dreams of this woman that he lost. So he becomes addicted to it, and he continues to eat it. But at the same time, he's also changed his life. He wants to do good for the world. So he starts, what he does is he clears out all the orcs in the area. The orcs have taken over ever since the land has been reconstructed. He kills all the orcs, and he founds the town of Tusk, and he actually names it after the orcs, after the Tusk of orcs. That's how the town of Tusk is named. He starts a town with all the loot and gold that he's attained through piracy. He pays that into building a town, inviting people to come settle. He builds a beautiful church to Ilmater. He on the outset, or on the surface, he seems to be a very good, generous person, but people know about his kind of dark past as a pirate. He continues to obsess over this woman, and towards the end of his life, he is heavily addicted to this red bone marrow, but he's actually too weak to actually make the trip out to the cave where he dug a hole into the marrow of the Leviathan. What he finds is that there's a small band of kobolds living nearby, and he goes over there and he makes a deal with these kobolds. First is he introduces the kobolds to the mines. The kobolds get addicted even easier than he does, because this Leviathan is draconic. So once the kobolds start eating the bone marrow, they feel powerful. They feel like it is the dragon that they worship, a boon from that dragon. They begin having nightmares and things like that, just like he does, and they get obsessed over it. So once they get addicted to his bone marrow, he makes a deal with the kobolds. He says, you give me a shipment of a small amount of this red stuff, this bone marrow. You send it over every couple of weeks or so. That's enough for me, and I'll pay you in gold, and you can live there in this mine, and it'll be your home. And the kobolds are more than happy to take that place for their home. And that is the original contract that Pallon established with the kobolds. Now, the nature of these visions that Pallon has, and the nature of what's inside the bone marrow, is the bone marrow is cursed, spell-plagued chaos magic. So when Pallon eats it, part of what happens to him is that he slowly starts losing his mind. He slowly starts becoming insane. But at the same time, his visions, his dreams, his memories of that ship sinking begin to echo outwards. It actually affects reality, affects the realms, because of the power inside that bone marrow. And what it begins to do is the dreams and the nightmares and the visions, they start echoing first onto the tragedy of the event itself, because a lot of people died in that ship. So loved ones of those people who died in the ship, close friends, loved ones, all the family that they left behind, those people start having those nightmares as well, as it ripples out like a ripple across a pond into the realms. So that's how things are. And this is actually when the player characters, when they're born, they have always been having this nightmare, because they unbeknownst to them, they are somehow related to somebody who died on that day. So even whoever the player characters are, whatever they come up with, there's some sort of relation, and that doesn't have to be specific. It can be something that's vague, and we can kind of fill in the blanks later. But that is what brings the player characters together, and what draws them to this place is because of this nightmare. Now, there's a second component to this story. Pallon, he's a half elf. So he lives a couple of hundred years, but eventually he succumbs to this addiction to the bone marrow that starts wasting his body away. He doesn't want to eat or drink anymore. He doesn't want to get out of bed. He just wants to sit there and continue to hallucinate. So in the last couple of months of his life, he decides that you know what, there's a big tomb and sarcophagus that's already in town in the Church of Ilmater meant for me, but I want to be buried. I want to spend my last days as close as possible to this woman that I've lost, to this lost love. So he secretly has some of his old pirate shipmates build a tomb for him way far off in the approximate location of where that ship went down. Now that place now is land. It's no longer an ocean because the oceans have receded. And they find that place and they built his a little hideaway, his tomb. And in his last moments, he is transported over to the tomb. He doesn't want to ever be discovered. He wants to spend eternity sitting there obsessing over this woman. So he crawls inside his tomb and he poisons all of his compatriots that built the tomb to ensure that then nobody will ever come and rob him, and he locks himself away. And that's Pallon's vault. However, there is a clue to where this vault is. The clue he put into where this vault is a map rolled up, and that's put inside of a compass, a ship sailing compass that he's left with his things when he died. Where now, even though his body's actually there, everybody else believes that he is buried in the sarcophagus in town. So that creates the backdrop of the mystery. Now, when players sign on to play this game, what I'm going to give them right off the bat, I'm going to give him the adventure hook. The adventure hook is part of who their character is part of their character motivations. Because this is a low-level game, and I don't want to start it where four level two adventurers show up at a tavern, a mysterious stranger shows up and gives them a quest. I want to have it, have a purpose right off the bat. These 4 player characters, sometime during their, they spent their entire lives having this recurrent nightmare. The nightmare is of a ship in a storm. In the storm being thrashed, and then the ship breaks apart. When their original nightmares, they don't even recognize that there's a Leviathan there. I don't want to give that away. All they see is that the ship is ripped apart, ripped in half, and they start sinking and they start drowning. And that's their recurrent nightmare, and they're haunted by this. Whoever these player characters are, whatever their race or class, they've just spent their entire lives haunted by this. They don't know anybody else who's had these kinds of visions. But one day, each of these 4 player characters were going to the store, one of the general store, and they see an advertisement for a bakery product called Tusk Cakes. And this bakery product is just a soft, a soft little bundt cake, but the advertisement for the bakery, the wrapper around it, has a drawing of a ship, and that ship is the exact same ship from their dreams. And these characters, each of these characters, when they see this, something clicks in their minds, and they start asking about, well, where do these cakes come from? I need to figure it out. They come from the small village of Tusk in eastern Am. So the story with these cakes is that after the death of Pallon the Pious, the kobolds continued to deliver the red stuff over, and Pallon the Pious actually started shared some of this red stuff with one of his friends that part of the when he established a town, one of his friends also by the name of Redcliffe. He gave some of this red stuff to Redcliffe, and Redcliffe also got addicted to it. So after Pallon died, Redcliffe continued this deal with the kobolds, where every night he would put 5 gold, every couple of weeks he put 5 gold, and then the kobolds would come and exchange like a big box of the red stuff. So he would continue to have this supply. And Redcliffe, lived his whole life also addicted to this bone marrow. And he actually passed it on to his son and his grandson. Now, the thing about his grandson is his grandson realized he took some of this bone marrow. He never took it himself. He never got addicted himself because he saw how much it destroyed his own father and his grandfather. but he took the this red stuff and he actually mixed it in to it as an ingredient and created this cake. And when he created this cake, he realized that he's just created a product that's extremely addictive. You know, it's sort of like a metaphor for the opioid epidemic. He realized that he could make a fortune out of this. So he created his own bakery, the Red Cliff Bakery, out of Tusk, and he began producing these Tusk cakes. And these are the cakes that eventually the player characters, interact with and discover and realize that they have to get to the bottom with. Now, there's another element of this that I have in mind that has caused the characters to come down here, and that's something I haven't mentioned. I haven't been talking about before. Remember when we go back and we talk about Pallon the Pious, and he fell in love with this woman, but he never met her, he never knew her name, he only was in love with her image. Well, the curse and the power, the spell-plagued power of the bone marrow was so strong that his obsession actually ciphered her spirit and pulled her spirit, preventing it from moving on to the next life, to the Wall of Souls, or to Avernus, or wherever her soul's going to go. It kept her as a ghost presence in the realms just because of his obsession. And Pallon the Pious, after his death, he becomes a warped, twisted spirit. His ghost still lives, and as long as his ghost still lives, he continues to pull in this obsession. He continues to ripple out the dark magic that causes nightmares. So in order for the players to end their nightmares, they have to destroy the ghost, or as a typical ghost story, they have to do something where the ghost comes to terms with itself and moves on to its next life. That's the traditional ghost story, where, I mean, like The Ring or whatever, is that the ghost has some sort of terms and conditions. Like right now it's haunting you and shit, and if you fulfill its terms and conditions, it can move on or stop haunting you or something like that. And what the players need to do is either destroy this ghost outright, or they need to get Pallon to come to terms with what he's done, to recognize that his obsession is all it's done is cause misery across the realms. And it's going to be tough because Pallon is insane. Even as a ghost, he's insane. He died while being insane. Now, the second ghost is the ghost of Alina. That's the ghost that he has actually entrapped because his curse is so strong. His ghostly presence is so strong, it's trapped her as a spirit. And she is also a ghost around here. And when the players are kind of exploring the town, I'm going to have her kind of show up in a ghostly fashion, where they're going to be walking and then she's going to pop up, and they're going to, the minute they look away, she's not there anymore. Just a typical haunting ghost kind of thing. But eventually, I think she's going to get more active, and then she's going to start interacting with the party and start trying to give the party more information about the story. But she plays a role in getting the party here because she also calls out with all of her strength to be able for the party, for anybody who is related to the loved ones or having this dream. She's the one who allows them to pay attention to these tusk cakes, or compels them to eat the tusk cakes, so they make the decision to come down here. So those are both of those things are causing the players to come down here. But when the players show up, this adventure begins as a mystery. They don't know what's the story behind their nightmares, but we have all the pieces there. And this is a low-level adventure, so I want this to be like a role-playing adventure. There's going to be combat, but the combat's kind of, it's not really that exciting. On the first session, in the Marrow mines, the party fights a bunch of kobolds. In the second session, the party fights a bunch of undead. And then there's a potential final battle with Pallon the Pious himself. All of these battles, they're not very exciting. What is exciting about this, I think, is to create personalities and roleplay, because when the party shows up to town, they're going to interact with everybody in town. My plan is to have each of the NPCs, or not, it's going to be a puzzle. to solve the mystery, to figure out where to go next and how to end their nightmares. But the party cannot get all of the information they need from one person. They're going to have to talk to every single NPC, and every NPC is going to have a little piece of the information that they fit together like a puzzle. And once they've talked to all the people in the town, then they have an idea of where they're going to go. So that will give them ample opportunity to go around, talk to people, because sometimes the party will talk to one person and they'll be like, you know what, this person, we don't like him, we don't want to keep talking to him, we don't trust him, or maybe there's some combat, they'll start attacking, or I can't predict what they're going to do. So because of that, it's always easy to create a whole bunch of NPCs, give all the NPCs personalities. I mean, think that through before you start the game. And when you start the game, you have these certain pieces of information that any which one of the NPCs could have, but none of them have all the pieces. And depending on who the party's talking to, you can always move the goalpost. Like, let's say the party talks to the mayor. The party doesn't like the mayor. Well, you know what? The information that the mayor originally had, I'm just going to say the baker had it. So there's going to be a couple of elements of information when the party comes and talks to everybody. Here is the my little cast, my cast for my play. Is the village itself. Now it's gonna be. You can see that this scene looks a little creepy. So what I'm trying to do is it's gonna be a little bit horror themed because there are ghosts involved and this ghost is haunting the party. I don't want to go full horror. That's not my intention. My intention is focus on mystery, role-playing, and solving the puzzle. So I don't want to sit there trying to scare my party every 5 minutes. It's more important that it's just a creepy atmosphere. So when the party shows up, it's going to be late autumn. It's going to be dusk, very overcast. So it's going to be a very creepy vibe when they're walking around town. And this is the village of Tusk. And I have all these descriptions written down. The party will probably first go to the inn. This is called the Poetic Inn, and the inn has, of course, the innkeeper, Oswald. He's going to be a half-orc, and he might be able to kind of talk to the party a little bit about the heritage of Tusk, where Tusk is named after tusks of orcs, and this place used to be overrun by orcs, but this guy, Pallon the Pious, he's well-renowned. He drove all the orcs away and he started this town. So his opinion of Pallon's probably going to be pretty high. And then also inside the tavern, I'm probably going to have the mayor show up. The party may or may not interact with him, but he's going to be kind of in the corner eating his meal. Now the mayor is going to be rich. Both the mayor and the baker have gotten very rich off of these tusk cakes, and they want to protect their product. But the mayor, I think what I'm going to have is that the mayor does not know that these tusk cakes have this ingredient in it that gets people addicted to it, but the baker does. Even though the mayor knows that tusk cakes making money, he doesn't know about this secret ingredient. So if the party's sitting there trying to get information, they're trying to talk to the mayor, and he's going to be like some really haughty, holier than thou kind of noble guy. If they keep trying to press him, they're not going to get the true information about that the tusk cakes have a secret ingredient. And next, we go to the bakery. This is the Tusk bakery. The party's going to go in there. I have a very good description. The warm, tantalizing sense of yeast and dough beckon you inside. The bakery is going to have two bakers. One is Precious. She's going to be working in the morning, or I think maybe she's going to be working in the evening because the party shows up in the evening. But so she works in the evenings, and then there's another guy, Jeffrey, working in the mornings. Depending on which one they talk to, whether they come in the morning or the evening, each of them have different information. For instance, Precious has some information about where these mines are, even though she doesn't know the significance of the mines. She doesn't know that this red stuff is addictive or anything like that. She's never eaten any of the red stuff herself. She knows where the mines are located because there was one day that Kobold came to exchange the red stuff for the gold, and the Kobold stole some of her gold, and she chased it down, and she knows where the mines are, but she doesn't know what's inside the mines. She's never been in there. So if the party comes and kind of talking to her, shakes her down, or tries to get information from her, they're going to get the location of the mines. This is the baker. He's the grandson of Lord Redcliffe. Lord Redcliffe is a good friends with the original Pallon the Pious. His father and his grandfather were both addicted to this red bone marrow. He knows what the red stuff is. He knows it's the red bone marrow. I don't know. I think what I'm going to do is he doesn't know the actual location of it. Even though he knows of this deal, he's just continued on from generation to generation. So no matter how much the party shakes him down, they can't get the location just from him. So this is what I mean by having these little pieces to the puzzle, but no one NPC has the entire puzzle. That kind of really encourages the party to go back, talk to people, talk amongst each other. Some of these NPCs are going to be very creepy and suspicious. Some of these NPCs are going to be friendly, and I think it's like gauging. It's social skills, gauging who you can talk to and trust, and who you can make a deal with, and who you think might screw you over. So the party also has another location to visit, and this is the Church of Ilmater, Church of the Bound Hands. The church itself is very well built, stone masonry. However, the church is overgrown, thereby giving this creepy look. The church has a crypt in the back, which is the supposed crypt of Pallon the Pious. So the party goes to the church, kind of trying to figure out, trying to get more information. They will meet Father Osborne, a priest of Ilmater. He's going to be like a kind of an old, absent-minded kind of guy. Hello, my child. Have you come to bear worship to Ilmater? He's going to be a very straightforward guy, very good-natured person. The party can get information. The information that the party can get from him is when they enter the church, immediately they're going to see this painting. This is a painting of Pallon the Pious himself. So I'm going to show everybody this picture that's hanging right on top of the altar, assuming that they're going to ask, well, who's this guy? And they're also going to read this. They're going to read painting of Pallon the Pious, and they'll know. But they'll ask about him, and Father Osborne will be able to give part of the history of Pallon the Pious. He will talk about how Pallon the Pious used to be a pirate. Everybody knew this. He was Pallon the Merciless. And one day when he was robbing a merchant ship, he witnessed something, and he had a change of heart. And then ever since then, he became a pious person, and he tried to do good in the world. And Father Osborne is going to have a great opinion of this guy because he founded the town. He actually built the church itself. Then that's why his picture's hanging on top of the altar. On top of that, there's going to be another painting. The other painting is going to be let me bring this up. This is going to be the painting that I've shown everybody. This ship at sea. Yeah, this is the main theme of the whole campaign. The dream that the player characters are having. However, the interesting thing about this painting is, unlike in the dream, this painting has here this pirate flag. So now the party's going to be like, hey, wait a second, I've been having this dream, but this painting is the exact same ship from my dream. It's also the painting that they use on the advertisement for the Tusk Cakes, so they recognize it immediately. But now I realize that there's a pirate ship here, and they're going to ask Father Osborne about this painting, and Father Osborne says, "Oh, well, this was Pallon the Pious's favorite painting. He desired that it be displayed forever in this church, and this is a painting that he commissioned many years after the event of that shipwreck." And it was painted from his perspective. So now I think with that, the party should have all the pieces that they need to find the Marrow mines. They can, if they talk to each of these NPCs, they're gonna have enough information to realize that A, there is some sort of secret ingredient inside these tusk cakes. Depending on how their conversation goes with the baker they may or may not know that these tusk cakes are just they're addictive material. They come from the bone marrow. They come from some. Actually, I don't think I'm going to tell them about the Leviathan just yet, because being a Leviathan is the big reveal in the first adventure anyway. So, but they're not. They may or may not know that this substance is poisonous. They're going to, if they talk to Precious, they'll know where to look to find these mines. Now, if they don't talk to Precious and they're stuck and they need something, some other thing, another thing that they can do is that they can come back at night the next evening, and they can follow the kobold that comes and makes the exchange of the bone marrow for the gold. So they can follow that kobold back to this cavern system. So no matter which route they take, I'm gonna find a reason for the party to end up here in these caves, which is just outside town. And when they first get here, the whole concept, the whole thesis of the first adventure is this map. When the party realizes while they're going through this map, they realize that the map is the wing of a Leviathan. That is the climax. That's the epiphany, and that's where the adventure should be kind of ending. And that's the big reveal of the adventure, part 1. So this map is very standard. It's a very kind of a standard standard little cave. So the party will come over here. They're probably gonna be sneaky about it, and I put all these trees over here to disguise what this actually looks like, because this looks like an elbow joint. As you can see, this is the elbow joint of the wing of the Leviathan, so it looks kind of odd. So I put these trees here so they won't notice. So they're gonna sneak around here. Their first encounter is gonna be 4 kobolds right here, and they'll, I think depending on how sneaky they are, they can just come up here and outright have a battle, or they're going to come here and get a surprise round or something like that. It's only 4 kobolds. They should be able to take care of it just fine. So when they travel down the elbow joint, or actually this is the shoulder joint, not the elbow joint. When they travel down the shoulder joint, the map ends here. So the map is not this entire wing mapped out. It's kind of like little parts of the wing where you have encounters. The map ends here, but the direction the party takes continues. So they continue down the tunnel and they get to the elbow joint. It's going to have to be Theater of the Mind. There are a couple of traps here. There's a bat swarm trap and a centipede trap. In my opinion, the centipede trap is probably too much. Two of these centipedes with their poison attacks will insta-kill, a level 2 player if they fall into the trap. And plus, I mean, I'm not, it depends. I mean, I think if the party maybe, they're not moving carefully through this, I might hit them with a trap. But if they're like, being very, very careful, they'll probably find the trap. And then they move up through the elbow joint into the hand joint, and this second encounter takes place right here at the hand joint. So I'll bring my token up to here. So the party's gonna kind of creep up, and they're gonna realize there are a lot of kobolds over here, and yeah, I think there's like 10 kobolds. So this is gonna be actually a tough encounter for a level 2 party. The problem with kobolds is that they have this thing called pack tactics. If there is a kobold next to you, next to a player, and you attack that player with another kobold, that other kobold gets advantage. If there's at least one ally within 5 feet. That advantage really, really overpowers the kobolds. And if any of you have had the misery of playing the initial stages of Tyranny of Dragons, where you just fight Kobold wave after Kobold wave after Kobold wave. You don't know what I'm talking about. These guys are really tough. So my thoughts are, I mean, the party needs to be smart here. I'm going to leave the kobolds as they are. Depending on how many party members, I'll just leave the kobolds just as they are. And if the party is not smart about it and they rush right into the battle, then they're just going to have, they're either going to survive or they're going to be wiped here. But if they're smart about it, I'm going to allow it where the party is going to be able to draw off some of these kobolds, like maybe split them up. You know, they're going to create a diversion where some of them come and check it out. They kill those kobolds and they come back, and you know, when it's divide and conquer. That would work very well. The thing is, just standard kobolds are very boring. This is a low level adventure, and it's very kind of a boring fight. So I want something more interesting involved. So these kobolds, once again, remember, they're addicted to this bone marrow. So I'm going to have some of these kobolds sitting there just eating this bone marrow. These kobolds are here mining it, but some of these kobolds are just sitting there just stuffing their faces with this bone marrow. And when you eat it pure, directly off the wall, it has a powerful effect. It's going to give the kobolds here, it's going to give the kobolds addiction rage. So what I did is I just took pretty much the barbarian rage and I put it on a kobold, and that will be really, really nasty. So I'm going to give fair warning. I'm not just going to, the party, it's not just going to be in the middle of battle. Oh, the kobold rages. When the party shows up, I'm going to make sure they understand. Some of these kobolds are sitting there in the back, and they're sitting there stuffing their face, and there's this crazed look in their eyes, and they're huffing and they're puffing, and they feel no pain, and they just look like they want to rip everybody else apart. So the party knows there's something wrong with some of these kobolds, and the fight is going to be a little bit different than they expected. So that will maybe allow them to have some caution in dealing with these kobolds, because even though the kobold is raging, there are lots of ways that you can you can make this battle a lot more manageable. If somebody has like a web spell or an entangle spell, that will stop half the kobolds in their tracks, because the rage ability gives them advantage on strength checks, but it doesn't give them advantage on wisdom or dex checks. So they're susceptible to kind of area of effect like web or entangle. So, it just depends on, they really have to use their minds, because an outright battle with this many kobolds might kill the party. Like 4 level 2 party, it might actually bring them down. But if they run in guns a-blazing to this many kobolds, they earned it. They deserve to die. What am I going to say? I'm not gonna baby my players, when I've already given them ample warning. So, assuming that they do okay and they're able to take out this band of kobolds, they're going to continue down. It looks like there's 4 different tunnels, but if you look at the actual representation of this map, 2 of these tunnels kind of are dead ends, and 2 of these tunnels, both of them end up in this natural cavern over here. And this is where the party's going to fight Raikir. Now, Raikir is he is the kobold boss, so he's beefier than the other kobolds. He is a winged kobold, challenge rating 1 with 27 hit points, so he's sort of like a boss for level 2. He's got a couple of spells. I think his most devastating spell over here is, he's got Fire Spray, I believe. Scorching Ray. Not Fire Spray, Scorching Ray. Yeah, this is probably his most devastating spell. Because 3 rays of 2d6, he can just one-shot one of the party members. And on top of that, the kobolds have a height advantage. So the kobold's going to come out here, throw his sling, and then retreat, forcing the party to come over here and climb up this cliff where they're going to get surrounded with pack tactics. So this is a battle where the kobolds have a clear advantage from the outset. So it would be very wise for the party to come in here stealthily. If the party you know what? Another thing I can do is that the kobolds can run from this area to this area. So if the party is just wiping out these kobolds, maybe one of them will run away, and the party's not able to stop that kobold from running away. He's going to warn his boss, and then the ambush is going to be set up. Like, it might even be a surprise round. Actually, surprise round might be a little bit too much with this many kobolds attacking and a scorching ray. But he's going to at least be warn the boss where they're going to be ready and set up for an ambush. Similar to here, if the party is not able to kill all 4 of these kobolds and one of them runs off, then he's going to come all the way out over here and tell these kobolds, and they're going to be prepared for the party to come for the party's entrance. So, assuming that everything goes right for the party, they remain stealthy, they're not detected, they're able to kind of sneak around here and come up and kind of climb up here quietly. They can see what battle is in front of them before they undertake it. There's also another kind of ace in a hole. This is another kobold, a specialized kobold called the Trapsmith. And this is the kobold that's been laying those swarm of bat traps and giant centipede traps. He's got a choke bomb, which is sort of like a fog cloud, but it's got poison. He's got poison silver. This is more like a trap, so it's not something you use in combat in itself. But maybe I'll put a piece of poison silver among the loot. And he's got a skull popper. +5 to hit, 2d10 bludgeoning, and the type of damage on how the skull popper is built. A stone or heavy log does bludgeoning damage. A spike log. So he's got a couple of different things, and he's going to be kind of hidden. He's got a good stealth as well. He also appears he has a recharge ability that I didn't see before. He has a recharge ability called the Shredder. Primes and throws the device at a point within 30 feet. The device explodes. So this is an AoE effect, sort of like a shatter spell. DC 13 dex save or 4d6 piercing damage. Oh, this is pretty brutal. I mean, especially when the party's already fighting this guy. The stunner. Target restrained. 2d6 lightning damage. So there's a lot of these ideas. I don't think I'm gonna run this creature where he's using every single one of them. I think that what he's gonna be there is he's gonna be like my flexibility point. It depends on how the battle's going. If the party is doing great and they're really like they got this battle. It seems like it's too easy. They already ran up and they killed a bunch of kobolds and they're already beating down right here. Then I'll bring this guy out with some of these abilities. But if the party is getting their asses beat, they're getting pelted with sling stones, and right here hit him, took one of them down, this guy probably won't even show up. So this is he's good to have as like a difficulty adjustment if you need it. Because, you know, his abilities seem to be a bit strong for challenge rating 1. I mean, these these two kobolds, the Trapsmith and Reich here, they are from the Kobold Press Creature Codex. These are standard kobolds, and there is a tendency for some of the lower level monsters from the Creature Codex published by Kobold Press to be overpowered, and I think this is one of those cases. I mean, this Trapsmith looks like he's doing a little bit too much damage. 46 poison for his poison silver. You know, plus, well, for me, the choke bomb's not a big deal. I actually like the choke bomb because that's a fog cloud that poisons the players. That's something I might actually do. But what I think might be a little bit too powerful is the Shredder. I mean, even though it's a recharge skill, it's 4d6 piercing damage. Like, it's like a shatter spell. That's a lot, especially because the party's already going to be taking a scorching ray from Rick here. But let's say the scorching ray completely misses or something like that. I need something else to to put more pressure on the players. I might give them that. So this is good. I like having this. I like at least having the option of having something really deadly. And if the party's doing too well and I need to up the challenge in the middle of combat, this guy shows up. He will initially be hidden. He'll be hidden. He doesn't even need to stealth because he's going to be hidden. He's going to be here, hiding in a way where the party doesn't have line of sight of him, and he'll just hide until he's needed. So the party will defeat Rikier. If they choose to non-lethally take Rikier down so they can question him, that would probably be the best way to go. Then they're gonna get some more information. They're going to probably learn that all the kobolds, they're also addicted to bone marrow, and they also have the same dream of this ship that the party has. So the party realizes this bone marrow, something about the magic with this dead Leviathan is causing these dreams. I think once the party finishes the combat here, then I'm just going to reveal the map. I'm going, I'm not gonna have to roll, not gonna do a roll check or anything like that, because this is the big reveal, the big climax of this adventure. I'm just gonna reveal the entire map and say, what you all of a sudden you all realize once you once you get down here and the kobolds keep talking about how they are inside their own god and stuff like that, you realize that the path you took, you are actually walking inside the wing of a fossilized Leviathan. And you realize that weird wall, the weird substance on the walls that you were looking at before was bone. So if the party comes in here initially and they look at, I'm going to mention that the walls look a little funny. If they have a dwarf with them, I will tell the dwarf this is not even rock. You're not sure what it is, not a rock. Maybe do a medicine check to realize that it's bone, but it's definitely not rock. So the idea is that I don't want them to find out too early where they are. So at first, if they realize it's not rock, it's just going to be a mystery what this substance is. But it surely does have a lot of that red stuff all over it, that red addictive stuff. And they're clear that that's where the red stuff is coming from. That will be the end of this adventure. And the party members, if they survive this, they will go into part 2. So now we get to part 2 of the adventure. It's called The Vault of Pallon the Pious. So the party, after they destroy Riker and get the spoils, they're going to come back to town. And they only have a piece of the puzzle. They know that the bone marrow causes these dreams, but they also know that these dreams are related somehow to Pallon the Pious. Something about him seeing this scene where there is this ship that goes down and that has changed his life. They don't even know about this woman that he is in love with yet. In the meantime, throughout their time in town, they're going to be haunted by this woman. They're going to be walking around, turn their head, and the woman's following them, turn around to look, and she's not there. So this woman's already foreshadowing, and haunting them, but they don't know her significance just yet. So they go back to town, and they're going to have to go back to the NPCs to gather more information to figure out what they should do next. Now, there is an additional complication that I'm going to hint at in the first adventure, but it's going to be very obvious once they get to the second adventure. And that complication is that the baker and the mayor, they are very rich. They're making a lot of money off of these tusk cakes. They have some sort of trade distribution disagreement with the city of Luskin. And the city of Luskin has sent over someone to represent their trade commission, because they have exclusive rights to produce these tusk cakes. in Luskin, and the Luskin or the Trade Commission wants them to pay a higher stipend for those exclusive rights, or there's some sort of vague disagreement. So when they come back to town, there's going to be a gentleman by the name of Joffrey. He's going to be hanging out in the inn, and he is going to request to talk to the party. So here's an opportunity for the party to affect the what's going on in town. He's going to offer the party, if the party can gather information that would get the mayor or the baker in trouble, so that it would ruin their business, then that would be in his interest, and he'd be willing to pay the party. And on top of that, he probably has knowledge of the last location of Pallon the Pious. So the party is going to eventually discover that they need to go find the final resting place of Pallon the Pious. If they are to end their nightmares, they have to do something with this ghost. And it may not be obvious at first, but among all the NPCs, he's going to be the guy who knows where that location is. So I'm going to have to find some sort of plot reason for him to be the only one who knows. So the party's going to talk to the baker, the mayor, the priest. None of them know where Pallon is. The party will probably go to the church, and they'll talk to the priest, and they'll even explore the crypt of Pallon the Pious. When they go into the crypt, they're probably going to open up his grave, and Pallon the Pious won't be there. Instead, there will be a journal by Pallon the Pious. So that will be a big exposition dump. The party is going to read the journal, and in reading the journal, they're going to find out the entire story of Pallon the Pious. The whole story of him finding this girl and falling in love with this girl, only to realize that he's doomed her to death by destroying the ship, having the Leviathan destroy the ship. They will learn about how he had tried to repent, but regardless of trying to repent, continued to become obsessed and spent his whole life being obsessed. They're going to learn about how he had found the remains of the Leviathan. When in there, he had gotten addicted to the bone marrow because they continued to give him visions of this girl. And inside that journal, they're going to find that blue ribbon. So that is going to be a powerful moment, because once they get that blue ribbon, then the visions or the presence of the ghost of Alina will be a lot more prominent, a lot more corporeal. They're going to interact with her. They're going to start talking, she's going to start talking to them. And she is going to kind of give them a little bit of information. And I think what she's going to do is say, these dreams that you're having, there are hundreds of people all across the realms who have these dreams. These are all people who are related to the tragic events of that day. And she says, what keeps these dreams alive is dark chaos, spell-plagued magic from the obsessions of Pallon the Pious. And she says, you must find where he lies, and you must put an end to this. So the party knows that their goal is to find Pallon the Pious. So the party's I'm gonna give the party they're gonna be kind of run around and try to find who knows where the vault is. But they're not going to be able to get that information. And then at that point, Jeffrey's going to come up to me. He's going to say, listen, I think I know what you're looking for. I think you're having these nightmares. And he's going to seem like he knows a lot of information, and they're going to wonder why he knows so much information. He's actually a Zentarum agent. He is well aware of these nightmares caused by the curse involved with Pallon the Pious. He actually possesses that compass with the map that takes them to Pallon's lair. He's not going to be forthright with all this information because he's sort of a shady character. He has his goals, and his goal is to get information to ruin the baker, so that the Trade Commission can take over or whatnot. And his second goal is to find the location of the mines, because he doesn't know. So he's going to offer the party, I will tell you where the location of Pallon the Pious is if you show me the location of these mines. And the party is gonna, they're gonna do a perception check. If they succeed, they're gonna see that he has a ring with Zentarum on it. They're gonna know that he has something really shady in mind. So if the party agree to his terms, they get what they want. They can move on and go to Pallon's tomb, but they're also going to have to live with the idea that they gave him some information that will cause a lot of harm down the road. In fact, if the party does do that in the epilogue, the Zentarum is going to go in. They're going to kill all the kobolds. They're going to take over these mines, and they're going to start mining this material. And they're going to use this material and sell it to rich nobles to pay mercenaries to fight wars for them. So these mercenaries are going to be called blood ragers in the future. So it's gonna be a really big deal if the Zentarum get their hands on them. Likewise, if the party don't agree to him, they can fight him. They can have combat, although they're going to be having combat in a tavern or something like that. So it's going to be messy. They can fight him, or they can possibly sneak in the middle of the night and steal that map that he has on him to the location. But regardless, the party has to get it from this source. That's the idea, is that this is the confounding conflict that the party is going to have. If they're a good aligned party, they have to realize that in order for them to complete their quest and do what they need to do, they have to deal with this guy who's really, really shady. Now, what are they going to do about that? So that's a really good role-playing challenge, but I don't want the second adventure to be mired in too much role-playing, because the party had a lot of opportunity to role-play in the first adventure. So the second adventure, I want the role-playing to be a lot more directed, and they can have their role-playing and then move on to the adventure itself. So eventually they're going to get the information from Joffrey one way or another about the location of the Vault of Pallon the Pious. And here is the map for Pallon's hideaway, the Vault of Pallon the Pious. Now, this is a tiny, tiny, tiny dungeon with it's pretty much got, let's see, it's got 3 rooms with anything interesting in it. It's got a puzzle that I think is not really a puzzle. And it's got, let's see, it doesn't even have a trap. I don't even think it has any traps. So the important aspects about this little tiny dungeon, I'm not sure I can even call it. It's like a three-part cave map. Is that first the party comes up to this door, and the door has this cryptic message on it. And it's got a little cup inside of it, as you can see, and it has a little cryptic message. A center of the door with a small inscription carved above it. A gull watches you from near. Well, this original adventure is supposed to be on an island, so I'm going to leave that gull part out. The inscription reads, "Give to receive," and you can do a DC 10 perception check to uncover trace amounts of blood. And you know what? So what you're supposed to do is put a drop of blood in there. So the party, they're probably going to figure that out. It's not going to be too hard. They put the blood in there, the magic recedes, and the party is going to be able to open the door over here. Let me turn on player preview. So they move on into the cavern. This is a secret door, and there we go. So this is a secret door, and I don't think it's obvious enough by the way the shadows are drawn. So they're not going to realize that this is a secret door. So they're just going to walk past, and they're going to go down here. This is an empty room with some planks. And they're going to get over here. So in this room, what the party needs to do is that they need to solve a puzzle, which is, I'm not even sure you can call this a puzzle. It's called the Judgment Room. So this chamber is sort of a circular chamber with masonry, and all the stones on the mason say the word Wrongchus. And I don't know who came up with this. I think it's really stupid, but wrongtious. That's how they spell it. And the party is going to realize that this is a door over here. And they're going to realize that in order to open this door, they probably have to solve some sort of puzzle. And there's a hole next to the door about arm size. Just beside the door is a hole just large enough to pass a the curved stone. So what they want you to do is there's a stone that they pick up over here that says wrongtious on it, and they take the stone over there and they put it inside the hole. I'm like, this is so stupid. I mean, why even have a puzzle that is that simple? So I'm not gonna work with this stone. I'm going to make the object that they need to open this door to be in this secret room here. So the party, if they don't find this secret immediately, they're going to realize that they can't move forward. Like they have to keep looking. So that will at least cause the party to back up and take a look around, see if there's any secret passages. And then I'm going to make it very easy for them to realize that there's a secret passage here. This is very thin wall. They just knock it over. They walk down this secret passage. So when they walk into this room has initially 4 zombies. I added a couple more, but because this is level 3, and originally I think was made for level 2. But there's 4 zombies on the floor, and the party is going to walk over here, and there's going to be an altar. So the way the adventure describes it is that the altar is bare. There's nothing on it. There are a dozen stone tablets carved with inscriptions, 4 slumping figures that are these zombies. The tablets contain incoherent ramblings and prayers. So what's the point of coming to the secret chamber if they just contain incoherent ramblings? So of course, in my what I want is that there's going to be something here that the party is going to attain to put into that hole to open that door. So this is what I thought is that, as I said before, when Pallon the Pious was at the end of his life, he invited some of his old pirate friends to come and build this tomb for him. He paid them a whole bunch of gold. However, at the very end, when he was supposed to pay them, before they can even finish construction, he decided, I'm too weak, I'm about to die. So he poisons all of them and kills them. He doesn't want anybody to know where this tomb is. So that's who these zombies are. This undead is. So inside this stone tablet is going to be, it's going to be a vial of that poison that he used to kill them. So the party, the minute they touch that vial, the zombies attack. They'll fight off the zombies. So zombies are deceptively they are very deceptive in terms of their difficulty. They don't seem like they're tough because they're just a bunch of hulking masses, but zombies, the way you play them is that you need to swarm with them. You need to have a lot of them and you need to swarm with them. They have very low attack bonus. They have 1 hit dive damage. But their danger is that if they start swarming you, like you get a whole bunch of zombies here, here, and here, and here, that is a lot of action economy against you. On top of that, you need to be smart with them too, because zombies themselves, the way they behave, they're not smart. They're brainless. They're like, oh, they'll even walk by you and let you do an opportunity attack. They don't even care. But once they swarm you, I think what they need to do is that one of the zombies need to keep trying to grapple you. So if you get 5 zombies trying to grapple one character, just statistically, one of them's going to land the grapple. Once the zombie lands the grapple, then you're gold. then you're good, because once the zombie grapples a player, every zombie that attacks that player has advantage. So that zombie grabs a player, these zombies attack with advantage. So even though they're attacking at +3, now they have a high tendency to hit. That is how you make zombies threatening. You don't disperse the zombies out where they're separated from each other, where players can take them down easier. You want to group them together and go after one player. That's how you make them a big threat. If they manage to take down that one player, then you go after the next player. And another thing I do with zombies, just to make them extra nasty, is that even after the player goes down and starts rolling death saves, they continue to consume you while you're rolling death saves. So every time you're down and rolling a death save and you get you're doing death saves, if you get hit while you're down, that's an auto crit. That's 2 failures. So if the zombies manage to take one of these players down, then boom, it becomes a red red alert kind of event. You better do some healing or else this player is going to die for good. Another thing the zombies have that I see a lot of people just don't play is the Undead Fortitude. So this is not even Kobold Press. This is just a standard zombie from the Monsters Manual. If damage reduces a zombie to 0 hit points, it must make a Constitution saving throw with a DC +5. You can see the zombie has a Constitution of +3, but it seems to have like proficiency, I guess, on the Constitution. But a Constitution saving throw with a DC +5. DC is 5 plus the damage taken, unless the damage is radiant or from a critical hit. On a success, the zombie drops to 1 hit point instead. So that will keep the zombie in for a lot more rounds, unless you do a big hit on a zombie to completely, utterly decapitate and destroy it, or you hit it with radiant damage. Now, if the party has a cleric and a paladin, obviously that's not going to be a difficult situation. But if you get a party without anybody able to do radiant damage, you're in for a tough fight here. So the party is going to take down these zombies, and then they're going to come back with this poison vial, and the poison vial is the magic MacGuffin key to open this door. Now, the minute they put the poison vial inside, then a big flashing light shows up. You know what? I'm going to add a nice light effect. That would be awesome. All right. It'll be something like this. So, that took a while. So, the party is, the minute they open this door, or the door begins sliding open, shadows show up. These shadow creatures are undead. I think that if you have 4 party members, probably 4 shadows. So what I'm going to say is that this dark evil light shines, and when the light turns on, there's a save. I think there's a Constitution save versus getting blinded. And if you're not blinded, your shadow gets up and starts attacking you. This is the standard shadow from the Monsters Manual. So it's got a strength drain attack. If it hits you, then you reduce your strength by 1d4. If your strength goes to 0, you die. So this is pretty challenging, I think, because these creatures, even though they're challenge rating 1/2, if a lot of the party members get hit by the blindness, and the blindness doesn't go away, they're going to offer advantage to these shadows attacking. And then on top of that, if the party doesn't have any magical weapons, these shadow creatures are resistant to acid, cold, fire, lightning, thunder, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing from non-magical attacks. And they're immune to frightened, grappled, paralyzed, so they can't even be turned. Petrified, poisoned, prone, restrained. So these are incorporeal beings. So I might have some sort of, I think maybe I'll have some sort of puzzle fight where the players are, they're fighting their own shadows. And I think that the hint that they give over here in the judgment room is, do wrong to begin judgment, do wrong again to do right. So that's supposed to be a mysterious saying. I think that whoever came up with it was just lazy, but I'm going to go with it. So do wrong to begin judgment, and that means you put in the poison, and that was doing wrong. The whole poisoning everybody was wrong, and that begins the judgment, the trial, which is this battle with the shadows. And what what they want you to do is do wrong again. Well, what would be wrong here? Wrong would be, instead of fighting your own shadow, you fight somebody else's shadow. So I'll say that if the players are smart enough, well, the players try to think about this and they come up with a solution and it makes sense, I'll go with it. But otherwise, if they attack somebody else's shadow instead of their own shadow, any hit on that shadow will destroy it. However, if they attack their own shadow, then they just fight it as is. So that'll be a harder battle. Either way, they'll probably be. I don't think they're gonna be killed by these shadows. I mean, it might weaken them a lot. They'll probably kill these they'll probably win in the end. And at this point, I would think the party wants to take a short rest. I'll let them take a short rest, and they come in here, and finally they get to Pallon himself. So this is the the treasure room with Pallon himself. And at this point, I think this is going to be a mix of role-playing and combat challenge. So Pallon Pallon is a statted creature. This is actually another one of the custom creatures from Kobold Press. It apparently is a wind eater, some sort of a ghostly undead, warped by arcane catastrophe. However, what I'm doing is reskinning this wind eater as Pallon the Pious. It's challenge rating 2 creature. However, the way it's written seems a little bit more powerful than a challenge rating 2. It's got powerful constitution wisdom saving throws. It's got the same damage resistance as those shadows. It's immune to charmed, exhaustion, grappled, paralyzed, because he's incorporeal. He's got an aura of silence. Any creature within 120 feet of the Wind Eater has disadvantage on wisdom checks that rely on hearing. All creatures within 20 feet of the Wind Eater are immune to thunder damage and are deafened. This trait works like the silence spell, except the effect moves with the Wind Eater and persists unless it's incapacitated or it dies. So that's pretty nasty. I mean, a silence spell around it where people can't cast spells at it, that's pretty nasty. Also, it can move through walls and stuff like that with incorporeal movement, shadow blending. When it can become invisible in dim light. And the Wind Eater is a spellcaster, and it has this possession skill where it just possesses one of the players if it can get through the player's charisma saving throw. Target loses control of the body, and Ghost now controls the body. The target is still aware, and that's great. That's some great role playing. He's still aware, but he has to go and start killing his teammates. He's got a couple of spells: Silent Image, Illusions. I usually play off if I want to kind of like mess with the players a little bit. They show up and they see, something there, something else there. But I'm not sure I want to use this. So the problem with spell levels for monsters is that, you have to make the choice, because this guy, how many hit points does he have? He's got 65 hit points. So a party of 4 level 2, or actually they're level 3 now. A party of 4 level 3 players, they can do they can kill him in 2 rounds. I don't expect bosses, especially a solo boss, it's not going to last very long. And you have to make a very important decision, because you got 2 rounds and you got 2 actions. So if I only got 2 actions, would I rather cast my Aura of Silence, or would I cast, Blur? Because every single one of these spells is going to cost me an action. Would I want to cast Bane? Dream, I'm probably not going to be casting in combat. It's too complex to try to cast in combat. But, you have to choose. Which one of these am I going to, and normally the right answer is, open with the most powerful ability they have, which is possession. But the problem is, the thing is, a DC 13 charisma saving throw. There's a lot of warlocks and paladins in the party. They're going to make that charisma saving throw. So is it worth trying to do it and then failing and wasting your turn? I don't know. So these are tough decisions. I mean, sometimes on the spot, oftentimes I just make the wrong decision. Sometimes I make a good decision, but more often than not, I just make the wrong decision. And bosses like this just go down in 2 rounds. So I might jack up his hit points to 120 or something, like double it, go to 120 or something if I want him to last longer in combat. It depends on how the party's kind of faring, but that's if the party chooses to fight him. Now I want this to be beatable without combat as well. So the treasure that the adventure gives you, I think, is just I am trying to wrap my head around what exactly it means, but he has these scales of misjudgment, just a set of scales that are worth 75 gold pieces. Nothing magic about them, and that is the treasure. That is the ultimate treasure of this whole adventure, is a set of scales. I'm like, no, they need more than that. I'm going to give them Pallon's entire treasure trove, because you know what, this is the end of the adventure, so who cares? So I'm going to give him 1,000s of gold, his leather armor, his scimitar +1, and I'm going to the scales of misjudgment. I think I'm going to put right on top of the treasure chest. So this is the little puzzle I'm going to have for the players. When they come up to this, they're not going to see Pallon the Pious as in ghost form. They're going to see skeleton bones in the corner of some poor soul who just died huddled in the corner, not even properly buried. And I think that they'll probably come to the conclusion that's Pallon, because this whole room is going to be full of boxes and boxes of that red bone marrow. Those scales are going to be hanging out right on top of the treasure chest. And on those scales, on one side of the scales is going to be a big clump of bone marrow. And the party needs to figure out, what is this puzzle? And the correct answer is they need to put Alina's ribbon on the other side. The reason being is it's going to be an analogous. It's going to be like a metaphor. Alina's ribbon is heavier than that red stuff, because her actual existence, who she actually was, is real, and that red stuff is just your imagination, the obsession that has created this whole problem in the first place. So I think that will be some sort of statement. I think the party can eventually figure out that they're supposed to put the ribbon there. If they can't figure this out, and they start searching the room too much and stuff, then I'm going to have Pallon's surprise attack, and they'll be in combat. But if they do figure this out, then they get then the scales tip where the ribbon, even though it shouldn't, is actually heavier. It's sort of like the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead, where you judge, you put the feather of Mot versus your heart. Same idea. The ribbon is going to be heavier than that red stuff, that red bone marrow stuff. And when that happens, then Pallon appears as an apparition that will communicate with the party. And it's important because Pallon is going to be insane. He's not going to speak logically, because when he died, he was legitimately insane. He was addicted to this red stuff that had been destroying his mind. And his state of consciousness, his state of reasoning will be in that state. So he will be sitting there, where is my love? Have you brought my love back to me? And the party's going to have to try to talk him down. It's gonna be a high DC. It's gonna be like I don't know, DC 16, 17, DC 16, 17 skill checks. And also, it's, you know what, I will go by what the party does or what they say, because if I see some fantastic role playing here, I might just not even give them a skill check. But if their role playing is kind of crappy, I'll give them a tough skill check on their persuasion or intimidation. If they succeed, they talk Pallon out. They kind of talk Pallon into realizing what he has done. And if they do that, then Alina shows up in her ghost form. She's gonna look like in her angry banshee form. She shows up and she destroys and consumes him, and that ends him. And the party, they conclude their adventure. For the first time in their lives, they're going to be able to have a full night's sleep without uninterrupted by this horrible nightmare. And that'll be the conclusion of the campaign. If the party ends up instead killing Pallon in ghost form, then I think that they'll be visited by Alina anyway. I don't think I'll have her in this form. I think I'll have her in the same form that I had her before. I did have a picture of her. Here we go. Yeah, I'll have her in this form as she was in life. She'll thank the party. She'll thank the party for releasing her soul and stuff like that. Alina is also statted, so she is actually very similar, but she has this skill called Inflict Sorrow, which I think is awesome. It keeps instead of like Strength Drain, it's a Charisma Drain. If the party ever decide to take aggressive action towards her as a ghost, they're gonna have to fight her. She's not easy to destroy. She's just as hard as Pallon. Or I think if the party begins sides with Jeffrey and spread the bone marrow out, they side with Jeffrey and he's able to go and kill the kobolds and take over the mine and make this bone marrow spread out throughout the land. She's going to haunt them for eternity. So those are the possible epilogue beats, depending on the choices that the party makes. So I think that there's definitely a possible good ending. Best possible ending is first the party goes into the Kobold Cave and kills Riker, kills the kobolds, wipes them out. So the kobolds are no longer mining, and nobody else knows about the mine. Because if the party doesn't do that, the kobolds eventually eat so much of this stuff, they reproduce, they build a massive tribe, and they come and they infect the land and they destroy the town of Tusk if they don't manage to wipe out the kobolds. Second is that the party needs to get the information about this place, the vault of Pallon the Pious, without telling Jeffrey the location of the mines and not giving him the mines either. So that's either by killing Jeffrey or stealing it from his person, stealing that big compass from his person. So the Zentarum never find it. That's another point. And the third point is that the party needs to, Jeffrey is going to ask the party to get some dirt on the baker so he can put the baker out of business. And if the party is able to put the baker out of the business, then this Tusk cakes don't spread across the world. So if the party is not able to put the baker out of business, even if they kill Riker eventually finds some other way to get that bone marrow from the mines. He becomes insanely rich, and these Tusk cakes start driving people insane. Because if you eat the bone marrow and you continuously eat it, the Tusk cakes have a very small amount. Rather than people who are directly addicted to it and you eat fistfuls of it or anything like that. If you continue to eat it, eventually you get insane and you die. So the Tusk cakes eventually kill thousands of people across the land. So if the party prevents all of those horrible things from happening, then I would say that's the good ending. Bad endings range from any of those things happening or the party just obviously getting TPK'd by the zombies or something like that. And that is my prep and review of the Marrow Mines and Vault of Pallon the Pious.